Right, so Donald Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration is making headlines yet again. The first phase is targeting people who are here illegally, who are both public safety and national security threats. And now the administration wants other illegals to just leave voluntarily. The Trump administration will require undocumented immigrants to register with the government or potentially face prosecution. The Department of Homeland Security is essentially saying leave now and have that chance of coming back legally to live out your American dream. Joining us in studio tonight is immigration attorney Deron Smallcomb. He's also the author of America's Future, a blueprint for the 21st century immigration reform. Deron, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
We do appreciate it. So this plan would require anyone over the age of 14 to come forward, give their fingerprints, do some things. It's basically some accountability for who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Do we really think people are going to come out of the woodwork now and say, here I am?
Some will, but it's really a pressure situation is what they're trying to do here. You see, ICE can only get maybe, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 people per day, that are out of the country. That's less than 1 million per year. You're never going to catch up to the backlog that we had. But if you could convince people to voluntarily deport, then you could really increase those numbers. So this new law that they're trying to implement, it's actually a very old law, many decades old, from the 1940s, that they're implementing, would require people that came without inspection to at some point come in and be inspected and give their biometric data.
So when you say some people will, who are you talking about? Who will versus who won't?
Well, people that have an incentive to, right? So if you've been here trying to stay under the radar for a long time, then you might not be willing to come forward. But let's say you're trying to do things right, and you've been here a long time, and you have a court proceeding that may allow you to get a legal status at some point. Well, that is something, if you don't comply with, is going to go against your character, and it's going to reflect poorly on you when a judge decides your fate.
Yeah, let's double down on that. Give us some examples of what happens if you don't comply. Couldn't that just be another reason to deport people?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, look, the penalties aren't going to be severe, but it's something to add on top of what you've already done. So it's one thing to say, okay, 20 years ago, you were brought to the country as a kid and you've lived here your whole life. You're a grown adult now, following the law. Right. Okay, right? You haven't done anything wrong. But if you don't comply with this, now you have done something wrong. You've not been compliant. So that's one example. Now, another example is in court, there's a thing called cancellation of removal, right? So people that have been here more than a decade, that have been lawful and things like that, that are going to court to be removed, they could ask a judge to say, hey, no, look, I really don't need to be removed here. I've been a good guy. I've got a family. I've got a job. People depend on me. And one of the things they will look at is your character, right? And non-compliance with the law is evidence of bad character.
No doubt. Hey, I want to get to the other big story on immigration. It's Donald Trump announced this. Listen here.
Gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. And never been done before or anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say 2 weeks, Howard? Do you want to say a couple?
So I heard the word wealthy there several times, because it's a $5 million gold card that could potentially look like this if people cannot afford to pay their own way. Donald Trump said this, listen.
They go to all great schools, and they graduate #1 in their class, and they're made job offers, but the offer is immediately rescinded because you have no idea whether or not that person can stay in the country. I want to be able to have that person stay in the country. These companies can go and buy a gold card, and they can use it as a matter of recruitment. At the same time, the company is using that money to pay down debt.
So you see the difference there? Also, companies can now invest in people by buying these people gold cards. What do you make of this?
I got to tell you, this is a really clever idea, and it's great for America. So what I understand is many people have already expressed some interest in doing that.
250,000 people.
That's amazing.
Apparently have already signed up or in line saying, I'm ready.
So that's about $1.5 trillion, right? That's the interest on our national debt every year, right? That's almost the difference between us balancing a budget or not. That covers all of our military expenses for a year. That's an amazing thing. But it's even smarter than that, right? So here's the thing. One thing that we have in common with two of the, let's say, more troublesome countries in the world, North Korea and Eritrea, is we tax by citizenship. There's only 3 countries on the planet that do it, and the United States is one of them. That means if you're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, you pay taxes to the United States. You file with the IRS every single year. Doesn't matter whether you live here or not. You're talking about ultra high net worth individuals now that are going to be doing this, right? That means they are subject to taxation by the United States for the rest of their lives. So not only are they bringing their wealth into this country to create jobs and make investments, they're going to be taxed on that in the United States in perpetuity.
But you know, the other side of this is like, well, we may have some, you know, Russian oligarchs come in and maybe buy their way into our country. Is that a concern? Look, you have to imagine the scrutiny on this is going to be hyper sensitive, right? And there will be all kinds of vetting, but could that potentially happen too?
Absolutely. So there's been a process called an EB-5 that's been around for many years, decades in fact, where you invest about $1 million as essentially a loan, an investment that you get back later into the United States, and that was a path to a green card. Took a long time, was really cumbersome, difficult to do, but people did it. The United States didn't really benefit by that other than a short-term investment because that money didn't stay in the United States. That's number one. But the important part with regards to Russian oligarchs, for example, or any other bad actor potentially on the planet, is that there was a tracing of funds. And that always happened. So the main part of the filing that you would do with the government when you filed for an EB-5 is you'd have to show how you acquired your wealth. And if it was done by illicit means, you weren't eligible.
Yeah, and the bottom line, Trump's administration has said this will actually replace EB-5, is what they're thinking. And according to the president, could happen within 2 weeks or so. Darren, great to see you.
Likewise.
We should also point out the United States isn't the only one to do this.
No,
right?
they're
I mean,
not.
It's happening around the world as well. Darren, thank you.
Pleasure.
We'll be back with more right after this.